What's going on, folks? It's your boy again, back in the building. Doc Sean Thomas here, episode 57 of the Be More Today show. We are back in the building. And folks, I'm just happy to be here with you guys again. We've been pushing forward Be More Today since its inception. We are now heard in 34 countries. So for all you guys who have been listening, supporting us, really appreciate it. Your love, your text messages, your emails, your social media posts. It's been great. We love the love we've been getting, and Be More Today is continuing to spread from my book to our music on Amazon, the podcast, clearly the Words for Life show. All these things are continuing to brand us properly, and we're doing great things. Our support page is still up, so if you want to support us in any way, please go on the site and give us any kind of support that you want to. We appreciate your love and support, and we'll continue to bring you good content and great people who are doing, again, ordinary people doing extraordinary things. That's our mission. That's my mission, just to highlight those things at this point in time. And my quotation for today is very, very simple as always. It says, if you don't get out there and define yourself, you will be quickly and inaccurately defined by others, by Michelle Obama. Listen, definitions are very, very important, especially during this time in our country where we've seen a lot of things happening with stereotypes. We've seen the Black Lives Matter movement, Asian hate movement, all these different things. And there's so many interesting stereotypes that are still out there, how people define people of color, how we're defined, men versus women, even different areas, right? Even talking about Brooklyn versus Queens and Staten Island, how we define those areas and who lives in those certain areas. Definitions are very, very interesting. And, I'm making it very clear to my daughter that, what she sees out there in the world, because she asked me, Daddy, why is my skin color different than this person and that person? And even she, mommy and daddy, my wife is Indian, I'm African-American, our skin color are different. So she asked all these different questions about all these different things. And what's being defined for her is her personality, her culture, her persona. And I'm really trying to make sure that I put out there, for me, how I want to define myself as a person, as a Black man, as a therapist, as a human being, as an American. All these different things really can dictate how we interact with the world. And as I go out there as a father, defining for my daughter how I want her to live, it's very, very important that we make sure we put out there what we want, that we see the change we want to see in the world, that we actually live that thing. And before others define us, we define ourselves. With all the George Floyd stuff that's happening in the world right now, and the Chauvin case, that verdict that came out, it's very, very important that we make sure that we continue to define ourselves where we want to be defined. And, history is going to repeat itself as always. We're all happy about the way that things went down, clearly, but definitions are key. Stereotypes are still there. And I think it's really good for us to continue to defy those things, and to brand ourselves in a way that we want to be seen. No matter what the public says, no matter what the people say around you, you can go out there and brand yourself the way you want to be branded. And Michelle Obama said it really, really well. You'll be quickly and accurately defined by others. So I think branding is very, very key in terms of how we do certain things in our lives. And my guest for today on the show is a branding expert, not so much related to race relations, but really related to the bigger picture for businesses and for companies and things on a bigger scale. He's a great friend of mine from Rotary Hall. Forever True. It's a golden blue. His name is Michael Sean Mitchell. And besides having a great middle name, he's also a great friend. So Michael Mitchell is the Senior Director, Head of Brand and Content Marketing at Mailchimp. Previously, he led brand and experience strategy at Publicis Sapient. He directed ideation and insight creation across EMEA, Southeast Asia, and Japan, inspiring creative performance, driving digital product innovation, and elevating consumer-focused brand experiences. From New York to Tokyo, Sydney to London, Bangkok, and Auckland, Michael has helped brands like GE, Toyota, AT&T, Unilever, Heineken, Standard Chartered, GSK, and Opera Australia use insights strategically, helping them stand out and tell their stories to the world. A tenured brand expert, Michael was previously Associate Creative Director at Possible and Associate Director at Interbrand. Prior to Interbrand, Michael earned a Master of Fine Arts degree in creative writing from the New School in New York. He believes in the creative power of words. When chosen carefully, they have the ability to truly transform a brand, creating real emotional connections with audiences. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, pets included, please welcome to the stage my boy from Trip with Mary Hall and the man with the master plan, as always, Jamaica's finest, Michael John Mitchell. Mike, what's going on, man?
Mr. Thomas, good to be with you. Good to be with you this morning.
I appreciate you coming on. I haven't seen you since the Super Bowl, not this past year, but last year, before the madness went down with COVID-19, and you were in Atlanta,
in the
and
before times.
To see our mutual friends out there. We had a great time, and then everything hit the fan, and we've been kind of on a crazy train ever since. But I appreciate you, and thank you so much for being on the show today.
No, I'm super excited. It's great to chat with you.
Yeah, man. What's going on with you? How are you? How's your family? Where are you right now? And what's going on since last time I saw you?
So yeah, last time I saw you, I was living in Atlanta, and then the world shut down. So my wife and I came back up to New York to be closer to family. Everyone's doing well. All parents are vaccinated now. My wife and I got our first shot. So we've hopefully there's light at the end of the tunnel, and now working out of the Brooklyn Mailchimp office and hoping to just resettle back in New York. Yeah,
that's great. Listen, so I know your story, but I want everyone else to know your story. You know, you and I were great friends at Choate. I think our friendship actually got better after Choate, because we had mutual friends at Choate clearly. But then I think you and I hung out a lot after Choate. Going out late nights on Thursdays, and yes, we had our skating things or whatever else, and our friendship kind of grew from there. Talking about Knicks basketball and whatever else that we had similar interest in. Even going to Jamaica, clearly we had a good time there together and had a continual relationship even after school. We went to Kenyon College, but once you went to Kenyon College, the new school, I kind of lost track of your movement and your progress. So just give everybody a glimpse of basically your journey from Kenyon College, or after Choate, I guess, to Kenyon College, and then you did so much creative writing stuff. So what was the journey from school, Kenyon College, creative writing, to this marketing thing, and how that whole transition happened for you?
Yeah, so I think probably even in high school, I was pretty vocal about how interested I was in English and in writing and in creative writing. I feel fortunate that it's something that I was attracted to early, and I kind of had a focus and could put my energy towards it. I majored in it in undergrad, and then I went and got a master's degree in creative writing with the sort of idealistic goal of becoming the next James Baldwin, Toni Morrison, sort of trying to write that great American novel. But in the back of my head, I also knew that I'll work as hard as I can towards that goal, but that's a very small percentage of people actually reach that. So how can I make a career, make a living as a writer, without having to put all my eggs in the Toni Morrison basket? So during grad school, I was like, maybe I'll be a journalist, and I interned at Complex magazine and at the Village Voice and a bunch of other magazines, and realized journalism wasn't quite for me. Journalists spend 90% of their time chasing down a story, and sort of the last 10% just trying to write it down and get it in under deadline. I like to spend more of my time with the creative process and actually writing and putting words together. And so somehow I figured out, well, there's marketing or advertising and copywriting. So potentially there's an opportunity for me to like copyright or do something like that. And I think I couldn't even tell you how I got my first freelance copywriting gig, but I was writing for Women's Wear Daily, which is some, I think it's just like how in New York, how they hand out these just like daily newspapers on the subway for free, things like that. It was one of those. So I'm just like writing small ads inside of that fashion little newspaper. But that was enough to build a little bit of a portfolio that I could begin to shop around as I was looking for a real job once grad school ended. And landed my first gig as a writer in a very boring field. I worked at a mutual fund firm called Oppenheimer Funds, and I was a financial marketing writer. So writing about mutual funds and college savings plans and retirement plans for 3 years there. But it was just an opportunity I was writing for a living. I was doing marketing for a living. I was able to pay my bills. And it also it taught me, because of the significant regulations in finance, it just taught me how to be creative within a very tight box and with the very strict rules. So it was a really just great learning experience. But for the entire 3 years I was there, I was applying to other places. I was like, I want to do something more creative. I want to be at an ad agency. I want to sort of be in that Mad Men world. But yeah, it took 3 years of applying to get my gig at Interbrand, which is one of the world's top branding consultancies, branding agencies. And that's sort of where I say I got like my MBA in brand strategy. So I worked there doing what's called verbal identity, which is helping brands understand how they express themselves through language, which is helping brands understand how to name their products, what their messages are, how their voice and tone comes together. And worked on brands like Kellogg's and AT&T and GE while in New York. And ended up transferring with Interbrand to their office in Asia, in Singapore, in 2013, and worked out of their Singapore office and their Sydney office, and then ended up just living abroad in Singapore for the next 7.5, 8 years, advancing my career from pure play brand strategy at Interbrand to digital advertising at an agency called Possible in Singapore as well, and then expanding out a bit more into business consulting and digital business transformation work at an agency called Publicis Sapient, also in Singapore, based in Singapore, but able to work across offices in Tokyo and London. So just sort of trying to continue to evolve my skill set, try to move at the pace of technology and the pace of the world, moving from pure play brand strategy to expanding into understanding what it's like to advertise in digital spaces. And then digital business transformation is really helping legacy organizations understand how to keep pace with sort of brands that were born in the digital age. So how does a legacy brand try to catch up with a Google or a Facebook? But also from my specific role there was helping them translate what their brand means into the new era. How does a brand experience come to life across an entire customer journey? And then by that point, at 7 or 8 years abroad, my wife and I were ready to move closer to home, back to the States. And I got a random phone call from Mailchimp that they were looking to hire a director of brand over there. And I'd heard of Mailchimp before, and I admired their sort of out of the box approach to selling software. Out of like a sea of blue brands, they're like this bright yellow, quirky brand. So it felt like an opportunity to go in-house, but still have a creative outlet and have some freedom. And so things worked out, and now it's been nearly 2 years at Mailchimp, and now I lead the brand team and the content marketing team, trying to help small businesses build big ideas and sort of connect better with customers and grow sales through our software and sort of the growing suite of offerings that we now have for small businesses.
Incredible. I remember you're still in Singapore clearly, and I remember seeing you at various stages, or talking to you at various stages through your journey from new school to Singapore, and then even to Atlanta. But really seeing the trajectory of how you or infused the creative writing component into your marketing skills and just translated that to basically doing what you're doing now. It's all connected. And, I'm really impressed by you clearly because you've come such a long way doing what you said you wanted to do, really following your passion and putting the work in. And then, like you said, Mailchimp contacted you. I mean, that just means that you were at a point where you were clearly recognized as someone who was an expert in their field. And you've been doing that thing ever since, just really showcasing your talents. So I take a lot of things from that. I take away from that perseverance is key. I take away from that also that experience is something that can't be brought. You have to kind of go through those different things to really build your portfolio of how you're going to be, towards the latter end or towards the peak of your career. And you've done all those different things. My question for you now, I guess, is, now that you're doing directoring at Mailchimp and you're the senior director, I'm a small business, right? Be More Today. We actually used Mailchimp for a little bit. We first started before we actually changed our name. We were doing the Mailchimp emailing. I think I talked to you about this in Atlanta a couple of years ago, and it was great. It was a great service. I think Mailchimp is a phenomenal company. At the time we actually started working with Mailchimp, we weren't really ready to do all that Mailchimp had to offer. And I think that we got lost in not having enough content really to put out there to our followers when it came to really trying to build our brand and build our marketing. But now that we're at a different place where, we have things to offer, we have our book, we have our podcast, we have 2 podcasts, really. We have our merchandise, we have our website, we're doing events, now we're at a better place to do certain things. As the director at Mailchimp, what's your, what's your main advice that you give to small businesses or small companies who are almost at a place where their bigger group of people all know them and they're ready to go to the next step where they get to reach out to people who they don't know, like people who, every business has people that they know clearly, right? And you get to that point where it's, okay, I've expanded and I've exhausted my contacts. I'm at a place where I now know everyone who knows me knows Be More Today or knows whatever their thing is. What's your advice to those people who are like on the brink of that and they're trying to get to the next level of what you've seen working with like a GE or AT&T or Toyota? How do you break through to that next level where your branding is bigger than the people that you know and gets to people who you don't know and be like a more universal kind of a brand?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, marketing is just building relationships. It's a little less intimate than a one-to-one friend relationship, but you should still view it as that and try to make it feel as conversational and as personal as possible. And so in the example that you're just describing, these brands probably have done a really good job of building relationships with their current base and their current customers, and now they're looking to expand. So I sort of take a step back and see what have we done well that has gotten our current base to be so loyal and so engaged with our brand, and let's tap into what we've done well so far and then see how we can replicate that on a broader scale. And I also think when you're beginning to do that on a broader scale, you need to understand that there's the ROI isn't necessarily instant. People aren't always in the purchase mindset when they first hear about your offering, whether in the purchase mindset or the listening mindset, whether it's a podcast or you're trying to sell something. But the idea is to plant that seed in their head so that when they do see the value that your offering is provided, or when they need that, you're top of mind in their head. So like for example, you and I would see like 1 million advertisements for cars, 24/7 on TV, but I'm not in the space to purchase a car 24 hours a day. But when I am, chances are I'll probably remember, oh, there was that Toyota commercial. Maybe I'll begin to search for that, or maybe I'll begin to look some research on that. So first of all, tapping into what you've done correctly to connect with your current audience, using that insight to expand your messaging and beginning to perhaps test the waters of purchasing some ads in social, or purchasing some ads across other platforms to try and attract people to you. But then, understanding that it'll be a little bit of a lead time before the leads start to roll in.
I hear that. And I think, and I know we have a lot of people who are listening who are also small business owners and people who are just doing their own marketing for various things. I can say, at least from the Be More Today, and we've seen that. We've done a number of things well, and a number of things we have not done well. And it's been a journey. It really has been a journey. I think everyone goes through a journey of trying to figure out, you're someone who's focused on words. So, what words you're really using to capture an audience, what words we're using to define who we are, and what we stand for, what pictures and images and in content we're going to put out there that it's going to hopefully link someone with what Be More Today stands for and what it really means. And even defining what Be More Today means for us, all these things have really been the journey, at least on our end. I know people who are listening as well have had that same kind of experience where, you have a thought, you have a thing you want to do, you have an idea, you have a whatever, but it's putting those pieces together to make sure that it appears and it is presented in the way that you want it to, that's going to be appealing and will seem like it's going to be successful to some extent. Because no matter how many times you think that someone sees, I do stuff on Facebook and Instagram and social media all the time. I do 1,000 ads and I'm always like, oh, everyone saw that. Everyone had to have seen that. And then I still see people, they're like, oh, you wrote a book? I'm like, yeah, how did you didn't see like the thousands of ads I've put out for the last, umpteen months. And I recognize that, yeah, not everyone sees everything. Or if they, like you said, they do see it, they may see it for a second, but it's not the first thing on their mind. And then it's not till they either see it a second time or a third time or a fifth time, or when they're actually ready to do something, then they actually go out there and say, oh yeah, who wrote a book? Sean wrote a book. Let me go get his book, while I have a second. So I'm still learning that, because in my mind, all I see is, well, we put this thing out, we put that thing out, and we put this thing out. So they should have, how could not anyone have missed what we've been doing? Because we've been doing these things, we have a podcast every Monday. So how can you miss now what we're doing? But I recognize that it has to be on a certain level for that thing to be ingrained repetitiously. And even commercials, like you said, we see commercials every single day. That commercial plays like 5-6 times while someone's actually watching a show or whatever else. So it's that reinforcement, I think, that really brands certain companies bigger than others. And I'm still learning that, but I know all these things because you're clearly ingrained in that world. It makes me think about another question for you, which is actually looking at the branding content. Now I know Mailchimp does, at least on our end, we did the emailing and the post to our followers, but just talking about all the other services that Mailchimp offers, if you don't mind, just to give listeners a greater picture of what the overall scope of Mailchimp really is.
Yeah, so we're trying to just be an end-to-end resource for small businesses, and our superpower is helping you market your products. And so marketing goes from everything from our hero product, which is email, to advertising across all social channels, to building your own website on our platform, to building your own e-commerce store on our platform, and then all the data and analytics on the back end of that to understand what's working and what's not, and how to course correct, or how to emphasize things that are already working. We also have a suite of AI-powered tools that help make some of that creative stuff easier. We have a tool called Creative Assistant, which if you already have a website, it'll help scrub all of your brand identity and visual identity content from that and pull it into our system and automatically create on-brand ads, on-brand emails, on-brand content for you to send to your customers or to prospective customers. So really making it a lot easier for you to have consistency across all your touch points using the power of artificial intelligence. And we also have a customer journey builder tool, which helps you better understand customer behavior. So for example, you have a customer who visited your online store, you saw they browsed for sunglasses, but they didn't purchase. This is a tool that can help you continue that relationship and follow up with them with perhaps a discount on sunglasses, because we've seen that you've already shown interest in sunglasses, and then that can help funnel and push people to that point of purchase. So not only just trying to expand the suite of offerings, but trying to make each offering a bit smarter and a bit more intelligent to help take work off the plate of small business owners. Small business owners are the co-founder, the janitor, the person at the point of sale, the person cleaning up after work. They're doing a million different things. Marketing probably isn't their number one priority or their number one skill set. So we also want to make the software as easy to use and as smart as possible to help make the necessary job of marketing easier, so that you can focus on why you started your business in the first place, what you were passionate about to begin with.
Yeah.
So that speaks to the software, but we're also expanding our content offering just to provide guidance and inspiration across the entire journey. So we've moved into creating our own suite of podcasts and our own suite of short form video and long form video as well, just sort of chronicling if there's an art and science to entrepreneurship, the software is the science of it, and we're trying to fill in a library of the art of entrepreneurship. So we have podcasts speaking to musicians about how they come up with their idea, because we feel there's a connection between the spark of an artist who wants to just make something and put it out there, and the spark of a small business owner who wants to make something and put something out there. So we've have a music podcast where we've spoken to people like George Clinton and the lead singer of Alabama Shakes and Run the Jewels, people like that, to sort of walk through what their creative process is and see if entrepreneurs can find some insight in there. And we also just have documentaries on essential workers during COVID-19 and how they were trying to stay on their feet during all of this. So we're not only trying to double down and make the software as useful as possible, but we're trying to just provide a full suite of value to small business owners, so that even if you're not in the middle of building something right now, perhaps we can provide some content that can inspire or educate along the way.
Yeah, I appreciate that for a number of reasons. As a physical therapist, marketing is something that we have to do. We have a whole marketing team, but when COVID hit, our marketing team was shut down. So, we don't learn that kind of stuff in school. But they gave us the task as directors to really go out there and market, in addition to treating and running the office and doing 1,000 other things, to also market our office. And it was tough for me because, there are 1,000 things like go into marketing, the relationships, the content you're sharing, whether it be gifts or pamphlets or flyers or t-shirts, what have you. And just finding the time, like you said, finding the time to do that is almost impossible when you're also trying to do the main thing your business is doing. To do the marketing aspect also is like, oh, no. How am I going to get that done? So it was tough during COVID for me because I had to do a lot of that marketing myself, but we got through it clearly. But I'm curious though, in what you just said in terms of small businesses and with COVID-19, did you see any drops in terms of small businesses not linking with either Mailchimp or just linking with brand organizations in general, just because of the financial crisis that happened during that time? Do you see a decrease in people who are actually trying to do advertising, or do you see an increase in people trying to do more of that during that same period?
Yeah, it's interesting. We have a fortunate business model because when times are good, people start small businesses, and when times are bad, people start small businesses. Either things are going really well and I have a little bit extra in my bank account and I feel like the risk might be worth it to take a shot now, so let me start something. Or things are going horribly. I may have lost my job. I need some extra money because something else went wrong. Let me start something new. So we actually saw a bit of a spike in subscriptions at the beginning of the pandemic, and it remained at a relatively high level throughout. So we don't take that for granted, and we understand like last year was one of the hardest years for everyone. So we provided financial relief for organizations that were working with first responders and essential workers. So we sort of waived the subscription fee for those groups. During the summer, at the height of the protests, we decided to waive fees for any organization that was working towards improving racial justice in America. And we're also just looking to how we can help those folks who were hardest hit by 2020. So African American entrepreneurs are sort of the most underfunded, underrepresented, valued group of entrepreneurs in the nation. So we're working hard behind the scenes now to release something that addresses that demographic specifically. So something that should hopefully release later this year. So even though, just business wise, we do tend to ride both good markets and bad markets, our goal isn't just to, make sure our bottom line is working. Our goal is to really empower small businesses and reach out to those sort of people who are trying their best to make it on their own and live life on their own terms. And we want to be able to support them in good times and bad.
That's great. I really appreciate any company that does that, especially during this time where there have been some companies who have been very vocal about how they feel about the economic crisis, also about the social issues that we're having in our country. And there have been some who have been very, very silent. And, I always love seeing big companies like Mailchimp come out there and do, I think, what is the right thing to do. Be vocal about how they want to help those who are in need, and be vocal about where they stand on certain issues about social justice. And speaking about social justice, it's interesting to me, especially, this month with all that's been happening with the Chauvin results and George Floyd, clearly, and Ma'Khia Bryant, 16-year-old who was in Ohio, and Adam Toledo in Chicago, all these things that have been happening around us. A lot of businesses continue to either be very vocal about how they feel, or very silent about how they feel, or somewhere in between. I know Starbucks has allowed people to start wearing things on their shirts that either say Black Lives Matter or whatever have you, or Asian hate, if you will. But I'm always curious how big companies, like the Toyotas and GTs and or GEs and AT&T, how they all respond to these certain things that have been happening, and how bigger businesses like sports entities like the NBA, and you have guys like LeBron James, who's been very, very vocal about how he feels about certain issues, and even our former president, number 45, responded to him and said certain things about him being a racist and about him tearing down our country and leading to stick to basketball. And LeBron has his own thing about, I'm more than basketball, I'm more than an athlete. So, all these different counteracting branding things, right, that have been going out there, and people responding to those things in positive ways and negative ways. I'm curious, Mike, to you as someone who is very, very keen on words and someone who is very, very keen on branding, what, I guess my question is, how do companies and how should companies at this time really be branding and marketing or responding to what's happening in a way that's not going to interfere with their branding or interfere with their market? Because I know there are certain companies that have chosen not to say anything about these certain things, only because they don't want to jeopardize their clientele, jeopardize their connections or their relationships. And there have been some who've been very, very vocal, like Nike. I think about Nike. Nike would say, you know what? We're going to say whatever we want to say because we're Nike. Nike can do whatever they want to do because everybody has their own platform. Nike knows that, at least in terms of their people who follow them, whatever they're saying in terms of what they support there are people who buy their things support the same thing. So, what are your thoughts as a marketing director in terms of how companies should or do respond to these things that are happening in our world, Asian hate, Black Lives Matter, et cetera? And what are the intricacies that I guess we don't see on our end as consumers?
Yeah, I think I believe when you're building a brand, you want to make sure that it's rooted in a purpose. You want to have authentic values behind it, an authentic promise to your customers, and sort of a deep-seated purpose behind your brand. And when you do have that, that helps make how you respond to situations like this easier, because it feels like it's coming from a place of authenticity and a place of sincerity, and you're not simply trying to ride whatever sentiment might be popular at the moment. So I think purpose-driven brands have been able to participate and share their solidarity with these movements in ways that have improved their standing amongst communities, because purpose-driven brands often also are. This isn't the first time that they've stood up for something. So, like a Patagonia, for example, has voiced solidarity with the Black Lives Matter movement and the anti-Asian hate movement, but they've been extremely vocal against any discrimination in the past throughout the last administration's time in office. They've been extremely vocal around environmental issues. So they're not just showing up out of the blue. They have a history of speaking truth to power in a way. So being able to sort of build your brand with a purpose and have a track record of standing for things allows it to be easier to continue to stand for things. But there's definitely a cost benefit analysis that goes into this. You don't want to sound like you're just trying to. No one's looking for Coca-Cola's sort of response to the shooting of another Black person in the world. Like you don't. So you need to understand sort of where does your voice exist within like the broader conversation. Am I just doing this to try and gain favor, or doing this to try and actually help move the needle in some way? So there's when brands are sort of jump into these conversations or put up a black square on Instagram but don't do anything else on the back end, it can feel hollow and it can feel inauthentic. I think people understand that majority of these brands have a lot of money in the bank, and being able to just speak about something without actually doing something. I think people are looking for both the words and the actions from organizations. So I think it begins with having a purpose, about having empathetic leadership, about having inclusive leadership. And when you mix those things together, when bad things happen, there's an opportunity for a sincere and authentic response that's not only just words, but coupled with some sort of action that helps advance the conversation and helps advance the cause, and isn't just a Band-Aid on a wound.
Folks, if you're just joining us, episode 57 of the Be More Today show. I'm here with Michael Sean Mitchell, Senior Director and Head of Brand and Content Marketing at Mailchimp, my boy, my guy, my Choate alumni friend, forever true to gold and blue. And Mike, I have a couple more questions for you. I love the work that you've been doing. You've always come off to me as a very calm, gentle giant, if I will. Because you're a powerhouse, and no one will really know that unless they actually spoke to you and got down to like the real depths of what you do. But you've been killing it since day one. And, I really just want to say I appreciate your friendship. And, as someone who I grew up with through high school, which I can't really say a lot of people can say that, high school for people is very, very different. But, going to Choate, which was a whole boarding school experience, we grew up together. We grew up as men together. We lived in the same dorm together. We were prefects together, all those kind of things. So we have a history, I think, that connects us that most people can't say they ever had a chance to experience. I really appreciate that in our friendship. But going to a school like Choate, we saw a lot of people who came through our doors and came through our lives in various ways, from various walks of life. And it, even by itself, was kind of a safe haven from the rest of the world. You go to Wallingford, Connecticut, Christian Street, and it's almost like a safe space, a safe haven, where anything can happen in our little world. And it almost felt perfect in some ways, and other ways it felt imperfect, clearly. But I always think about, what if the world were a better place like that? What will we have to do to make the world a better place? So my question for you right now, Mike, is, given all you've seen in the world and all you've done to make it a better place on your end and in your craft, what's one thing that you would want to do if you had the ability to change one thing in the world to make it a better place? What's the one thing you would do to make this world a better place?
I'd give everyone a passport and make sure that they use it. I think traveling has been just it's expanded or exploded my empathy. I think just being able to actually live in other people's countries, understand their cultures, live life as a visitor, and be able to embrace and understand and sometimes question, but always respect the way other people live their lives and other people's cultures. And particularly because when I was living abroad, I was working in advertising and marketing. So I had to communicate on behalf of other cultures. I had to sort of take in a creative brief from, a consumer packaged good in Thailand, and how do I sell this to Thai people? So just being able to completely immerse myself in that culture and understand different senses of humor, what is funny, what is dramatic, what is offensive, what is sort of acceptable. Just being able to immerse yourself in how other people live, it just gives you an expanded sense of empathy and understanding, which I think is at the core of what causes a lot of problems. I think just fear of the unknown causes us to just shut off from people and things that we don't know. And the more exposure we have to people and experiences and culture, the more expansive and inclusive I think we'll all be. So yeah, I'd give everyone a passport and make sure they get out of there. Get out of their bubble.
That's the first time I've heard someone say that as an answer, and I love it. I'm kind of mad because, even at Choate, I didn't go away. And I was so fixated on sports at the time. And I took French for like 7 years, and I should have gone to France. And I didn't go because I was like, oh, the team's going to need me. What? Like, I should have just gone. I mean, I went later in life. Clearly, I went with my daughter and my family to Paris. But there's something about going abroad that everyone who goes abroad talks about, that experience as being amazing and engulfing yourself in the culture. And I guess it boggles my mind that you could go to a totally different place that has a different language, and you can find a way to brand their content for that population, with all the different barriers that you probably had to kind of circumvent and go through and over and under, to make sure that whatever they want to present to their population was going to be attractive to their population. I'm not really sure how you did that, without having to engross yourself in the culture to some extent. So how difficult was that for you, just trying to, brand these different things in a place where you didn't really have a lot of experience living or even growing up in?
It was pretty hard, especially at the beginning. I will say everyone, the business language across Asia is English, so I didn't have to learn other languages. So that was at least uh, one barrier that was removed. But yeah, so I was based in Singapore, but my remit was all of Southeast Asia. So I have clients in Thailand and in the Philippines and in Indonesia and in Malaysia, and all of let's say all of those countries are about a 3-hour flight away from each other, but they're all vastly different cultures and vastly different types of people, different senses of humor, different products they're trying to sell, different reasons to believe in different products. So it was literally like a mental gymnastics trying to keep in mind, okay, I have a meeting in the Philippines today. It's for this thing. This is how people in this part of the world respond to things. Not only in the work I'm trying to create to like publish, but also just interpersonal reactions in the meeting. What are the norms of a business meeting in Manila versus Bangkok versus KL versus somewhere else? They're all vastly different. So not only just that mental gymnastics actually builds up that empathy muscle, like a physical muscle in my brain to be able to understand and respect and have deference to other people's ways of life. So not every piece of work we put out there was completely successful, and there were moments when I did sort of fall on my face as the Westerner showing up trying to tell people how it's done, when that's not how it works at all. Asia Asia in general might be one of the fastest growing regions on the planet, with like one of the largest populations of people under 30 who are all digitally native, who are leapfrogging a lot of the technologies that we have in the States. A lot of ambitious and talented and educated and go-getting folks over there who believe that this next 100 years is made for them. So me coming in there from New York advertising didn't really mean much to them. They're like, no, you're here to tell our story. So it was just it was useful and sometimes humbling, because I feel like Americans can often feel like we're the center of the world, and moving over there just completely erased that from my mind. Yeah, sorry, bottom line, to answer your question, it was hard, but over time you kind of build up the muscles to be able to do it better and better.
Yeah, I think, you traveling, like you said, traveling will be your gift to the world. You just really have an opportunity to recognize all those nuances that if you were never to really go outside of your small box, you wouldn't know. And I think the more that I've traveled in life, and I've traveled quite a bit, not since COVID clearly, but I've appreciated life here so much more, on both ends, right? You really see what the blessing that you really have compared to other countries that are not as blessed. And then you also see the differences in terms of, even thinking about race relations. Like, when we go to Jamaica or anyone in the West Indies, we don't have the certain things that we have here, talking about, this versus that person, color versus whatever. Everybody looks kind of the same in these places, you know what I mean? So it's just different. It's just, perspective is just so interesting when you go other places and you get the chance to really appreciate what's more important in life. And I think that's one of the beautiful things about traveling as well. Just seeing that all of our differences are really just, like I said in the beginning, just things that we can kind of brand or the world says that are certain things, but they're not. We're so interconnected. There's so many similarities between us as people. And even looking at products, I think one of the big things about you is that you can go anywhere and you can brand anything, because you have a chance to understand the similarity between people of different ethnicities and races and backgrounds, that your experience of traveling and being so many places has gotten you to be. And, I appreciate that. And I wish more people had that opportunity just to go out there and to do that. So hopefully one day we all get that chance to travel, everyone, I think, to travel to a place that they don't know and to recognize how awesome the human race is.
And yeah, just to follow up on that point, like you said, despite all the cultural nuances I described of the sort of the places I've been fortunate enough to work in, the connective tissue is that we are all a lot more similar than we are different, and that's kind of the key insight as well. And so when you realize how similar we all are, and sort of we're all just trying to do the best for our kids, trying to make this generation better than the one before, just trying to be good to each other, just trying to sort of be more today than we were yesterday. So all those insignificant or invented reasons of why one person is different than another, or why we should dislike someone more than another, just so they all sort of fall away just once you're exposed to more people, and you spend time with more people, and you chat with more people. So yeah,
absolutely. So Mike, I've been branding this thing Be More Today's for a little bit now. Wrote this whole book about it, and we've been putting out some good content. And this podcast actually came as a result of trying to find new ways to brand Be More Today, and it's been successful. We've created a platform where we talk about a lot of different things that are geared towards our mission for Be More Today. But Be More Today is very different for everybody. Although the name itself is simple, the phrase itself becomes very, very individualized when I ask everybody what it means to them. So Mr. Mitchell, you are number 57 on this show, and I'm curious, when you hear the phrase Be More Today, what does that phrase mean to you?
I think it means that we're all imperfect, and we can be comfortable with our imperfection, but but still always strive to be slightly more perfect the next day and the next day. So it just means that we're all on a journey. And it's about not about the destination, but about sort of all the steps along the way. So I feel like I'm always trying to make tomorrow's piece of work slightly better than the one before, learn from my mistakes, build upon things that went well before, and how can we make it even better? And also just interpersonally in my life, understanding where opportunities for me to grow, understanding what my good points and bad points are, and just trying to sort of push forward a little bit more every day, incrementally every day, not trying to sort of make broad sweeping changes, but just a little bit every day. Kind of it all adds up over time.
Absolutely. Mike, what's one thing you wanted to start doing or have already started doing for 2021? One new thing.
So my wife and I are on a real estate journey right now, looking for a spot in New York, and it will probably be a little bit of a fixer-upper. So I think I need to become more handy in 2021 and see if I can get my hammer and nail skill up a little bit more.
It's funny you mentioned that, because my wife also wants a fixer-upper, and I am not Tim the Two-Man Taylor at all. So I got to figure out how this is going to go down, because I think Ree and I are in the same boat. But I will
like
say,
I said, it's a journey.
Yes,
it's a little bit better every day.
Every day, exactly. I will say, working at my current job, because I'm the director there, if anything ever does break, I have to fix it. So whatever I can fix, I've learned how to, spackle and whatever else, screw whatever else in. But there's certain things where I'm like, yeah, let's make that phone call. Let's get somebody in here to do this for us, because I don't know how to do this properly. But yeah, that is also one of my things as well. Just so you're not alone on that at all.
All right, we can work on it together.
Exactly. Mike, any final tips you want to share with aspiring people who are trying to get into marketing or even into creative writing, or anyone who is looking to either join up with Mailchimp, either small businesses who are looking for an outlet to expand their business, or anything related to anything we talked about today on the show?
I think for anyone looking to get into the marketing or advertising or branding space, or just anyone early in their career, the world is moving extremely fast, and like every day it's a little bit faster. And that was one thing that I tried to realize, is that the skill set I have today may not be marketable tomorrow. So trying to keep pace with the speed of the world, the speed of technology, try and you and I both had a big birthday recently, and I probably shouldn't be paying attention to TikTok or Snapchat, but I want to keep up with what is new and what is interesting. I won't understand it as well as someone who is significantly younger than me, but as long as I can sort of begin to understand the full landscape of things out there, it can continue to make myself more valuable as a talent in the market. So I would just say, read as much as you can, listen to as many podcasts, things that are in your industry and outside of your industry. Just try to be as well-rounded as possible, because the world will continue to move at a faster and faster pace, and skill sets need to keep up with that in order to be successful.
Well said, sir. Well said. Mike, where can people follow you or connect with you on social media or otherwise?
Well, as I said that, I'm not too active on the socials, even though I'm following TikTok. Yeah, I think you can just look my name up on LinkedIn, and we could hang out there. That's where I spend most of my time.
Awesome. Michael Mitchell, my fellow March baby, thank you so much for joining me on the show today. You've made episode 57, one for the books. I really appreciate you. And I'm excited for us to chill, when everything comes down and when we find that time in Brooklyn or stuff, wherever, for us to reconnect and continue to push forward together. So I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much.
No, this was great. Really appreciate you having me on, and say hi to your beautiful family for me.
And folks, don't forget about the quotation from today. Very, very simple. Michelle Obama. If you don't get out there and define yourself, you'll be quickly and accurately defined by others. Mike talked about a lot of things today. Branding is his thing, and he's found a way to brand things that he knew about and didn't know about, just by simply recognizing the people around him, observing the people around him, learning from people around him, and seeing that the fabric between us is so interwoven that it's so similar. Right? We are more similar than we are different. And, it's good for us to get out there and define ourselves because others will define ourselves for us. So get out there, be who you want to be, do what you want to do. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Don't be afraid to go out there and ask for help if you need it, like a Mailchimp or any other organization that's out there doing those kind of things. And let's go out there and be better. Let's go out there and be more. Let's go out there and quickly do what we have to do to get to where we want to be. Whether it means that you got to find someone else to do your job for you while you do it, or find someone else to market your thing for you, like I'm trying to do, because I have to get my thing done by myself. I have to do my thing, right? But get out there and let's do it, folks. Let's make sure that this year is the year where we stop making excuses and we can continue to brand ourselves and build content to be better for ourselves and for the communities around us. As always, the Be More Today show, we're everywhere at BeMoreToday.com for all of our book, music information, our workouts that are being put out every single Sunday. So follow us on those platforms as well. And if you want to give us an email, you can email me directly at Dr. Sean at BeMoreToday.com, or follow me on any of our social media platforms, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. We are everywhere. As always, the Worship Life podcast every single Wednesday. So check us out on that platform, my boy T. Farrell. And as I always say, folks, have a good day. Have a good night. Have a great life, and continue to take your steps away to be the best version of you. I'll see you next week. Peace.